Hey guys, have you ever wondered why people pay for hiring real estate agents or pay to put their listing on the market whenever you can just do it yourself as a for sale by owner, or even hire a buyer's agent to write and do your contracts for you? Well, look no further. I'll let you know why. So the reason why real estate agents get those commissions is because we don't just do your contracts, your paperwork, or anything like that. We comb through the paperwork. We do negotiations. We look for the best interest. That's why it's called client. Before you actually sign that paperwork to get the agreement between a client and a and your agent, you are just a customer. So once you get into that client agent relationship, we have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interests. So today we're actually going over through one of the offers that I got for my listing, and I will basically take that 12-page contract that it's really wordy, a lot of mumbo jumbo, and break it down for simple terms for my clients to understand and look at what's best instead of them having to read through the whole mess. All right. All right, now let's get into it. What is on the contract and how to break down that 12-page contract to understandable terms for everybody. All right. So in this case, I have a 1-4 contract that the buyer's agent offered on my listing right here. So we'll go down pretty quickly about each paragraph and let you know what are the big things to expect and what you should look for and give to your client. So you have one, parties, pretty easily, but the buyer and the seller. Whoever is on the seller, who actually the legal owner on the seller, which you can look at in public documents, realist tax data, let you know who the official owners are, and this all should be filled out by the buyer. The buyer's agent should fill out everything. And if they don't have some questions like what tile company, we have survey, stuff like that, they should be asking me so that they can submit a clean and complete contract. That's how you know your agent's doing a good job if they send in a clean and complete contract. That's what separates the top tier agents and the new agents and the regular agents here. All right. So moving on to, they filled out the second part, the legal description. This legal description can be found on the MLS and on the realist tax data for Texas. So with that being said, they fill it out. You want the legal description, not just the AKA known as. But that has nothing to be worried about. We'll get in the nitty gritty soon. 2D. So with exclusions you have to put if the sellers are keeping anything. Exclusions such as fixtures. Fixtures are anything that are mounted using screws or nails into walls, such as like TV mounts, security ring doorbells, stuff like that, where it's actually attached to the property. Now, once it's attached to the property, it actually will convey with the property, unless you say you're going to exclude it, and the sellers will take it out on or before closing. Before closing, make it easier, right? So in this case, I actually have an exclusion for my client. They want to take their EV charger. They have a Tesla and they installed it whenever they received and got their vehicle. So they'll be taking that with them and it's listed on MLS and my listing agreement with them. However, they did not put this on there, so I'd have to tell them. Otherwise, if they don't fill this out, or it'll be messy. I can put it in for them as well, and they just have to sign it to acknowledge that they've seen it. All right. Now, 3. This is the big part where everybody worries about, everybody cares about. But know that just whatever is offered at the sales price does not always mean it's the best offer. All right. And I'll tell you why. So you got 3A. This is the cash portion. All right. This is how much they're going to put down, or if they're going to pay in full cash for the property. So 75 grand here, 75.4 grand, it's actually 20% of the sales price, and they're putting 20% down. So they're not buying this in full cash. B, the financing. So whether they're financing through a third party, a loan assumption, or seller financing. So a third party could be anything like an FHA loan, a VA loan, conventional loan, USDA loan, all those nice loans with third parties. So in this case, they're doing one of that. And we'll look at the addendum later on to see what actual type of loan that they're actually submitting. Because like each loan actually has its pros and cons for my seller. pros and cons for buyers. So in this case, with my seller, I know which loan will be the best for them in offers. So they're gonna get a loan for the rest 80%. So the total price of what they're offering is gonna be in 3C. They're offering a total price of 365 grand monetary value. When I say monetary value, this is just what it is. This does not mean that my client will go away with this whole 365 in their pocket. There's a lot of closing costs. There's a lot of other costs in here that you don't know until you read through them. All right. They're offering 365, which is not bad at all, monetary value. I listed this property at 359, so we got 6K above. That's fantastic. Paragraph 4, leases. This is whenever if you have anything that, if you have a tenant that's in the property, and like if my client actually had this as a residential property and they have a lease in there, then they would pick A. B, fixture leases. Say if you have solar panels and you're leasing it and you did not own it, and saying that it's conveyed with the property, they would have that lease on there, and they would put the addendum, let us know that this is still in a lease. All right. Natural resources, not very many within the suburbs in my city, at least. These natural resources usually are out and about in. Sorry, I had a phone call. Out and about with farmlands, very rural areas, in case natural resources such as minerals, oil wells, water wells, aquifers, stuff like that. So this one, don't really need to know if you're within the city much, but if you are buying in farm and agricultural land out there, you probably see this a lot. All right. 5, earnest money and termination option. This is one of the other things that makes or breaks offers as well. So 5A, they should put the title on here and see which is preferred title company. I actually put a different preferred title company on here, but they want to use their own, which is okay. Of course, we always want to use the seller's preferred title company. One, it shows that you read the MLS and know that what they want to work with. 2, usually the sellers have a working relationship with the title company and want to continue using it, and it showcases that that title company is will do things in the right way. Because now that I'm using a different title company, a buyer's title company that I haven't worked with, or I might have worked with in the past, but usually the assumption is, oh, I'm working with a different person, I don't know them as much, and they may not be doing things that that I would like or preference, or they could be slower versus my title company. But that's also preference. So this part, they put $4,000 as earnest money. Usually earnest money is about 1%. So this is a little bit less than 1%, but earnest money is basically money that's promised that you're wanting this property, you're interested in this property. This is why you're putting that amount down. Think of it like a down payment for the down payment. All this will go towards the price of the property. So this $4,000 that they're putting down go towards that 365. So at the end of it all, they're not going to pay 369. They're going to pay 361. All right. Now, same thing with this option money right here, option fee, $150. Now, this is a non-refundable fee. Option period means that they have the right to terminate for any reason within that amount of period. $150 option period. It has to be at least $10 for option, if any option fee. If you want an option period, they put $150, and we'll see how many days they're asking for later on. All right, but like I said, this also goes towards the closing costs and the fees. So instead of 361K from that 4K, you're paying 360K and $850. All right. All right, so 5A1, this is if they're going to deliver more earnest money on top of the 4,000. Usually, there's not many people that actually add more to their earnest money within X amount of days. That initial earnest money is more than enough. They put 0 to complete it, which is great. Going down, 5B, termination option. This is where you know that how many days they have with how much of the option fee, right? They're paying $150 and asking for 5 days. Now, 5 days. These days this is another thing that makes or breaks the offer. So 5 days, meaning that they get their, within the option period, they usually get inspection done to figure out if that's the property they want for them, or they could be looking at another property within this 5 days, and they could just want to terminate because they want the other property instead. So these 5 days are crucial because this gives a buyer a big out. When I say out, that means they can terminate the contract, take their earnest money without any penalties. So in this case, they're asking my client to take the property off of the market for 5 days just so that they can see if they want it or not. So 5 days for $150, it's kind of low. $150 is less than, what is it, $30 a day that they're asking us to take it off market. And in the grand scheme of things, if we were to calculate that and value out, I got 4 offers in 4 days, but they're asking me to take it off for 5 days for $30 a day. That's less than minimum wage a day. Just a heads up, all right? Option period always ends at 5 p.m. on the 5th day. If we execute this contract, it's day 0, we execute, and then the next day will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 p.m. that day, regardless of the weekend or not. All right, so that's the big one right here. 5 days is a lot of time. That's all negotiable too, but this is their offer. Going down, 6, title policy. Now this is also another big one that doesn't show the monetary value, but a good agent will let you know how much it would actually go into your net profit. All right, so title policy, they're asking the seller to buy the title policy at seller's expense right here, right? So title policy is usually like a percentage of the sales price of the house. So in this case, it's about 3.7K, and I'll show you a little list about that later on. 3.7K. That means that the original offer of 365 is now they're offering about 362 or less than 362, right? So my buyers aren't getting all 365, they're getting 362 and still haven't accounted for the closing costs. So keep that in mind. This offer is not 365 like it says above. So monetary value and all these other costs that are in here. Another big one, all right? 6, 8, and then I, or 1 and 2, right? So 1, usually there's a title policy warranty in case if there's shortages that the regular title policy cannot cover. Usually those are extremes. Like I said, you mostly see it on mostly farmland, that you'll see more things that regular title policy do not cover. Things such as like flood damage, usually stuff like that. So with the first one, they said that they don't care for shortages, not going to add that to the policy. If they do, they would choose 2 right here, and they can choose either buyer or seller's expense. Usually, this is not a major deal. It's usually another percentage of the title policy cost. So if they were to pick 2 right here, either at buyer or seller, it's usually about like 64. It's like $64 in this case. So it's not that big of a deal, but something to know. All right. Going down, 6C. So this survey, all right, a good agent will put if the survey is needed or not on the MLS on the listing sign. And then a good buyer's agent will confirm if the sellers have a survey or not. So in this case, they already know that we have the survey, and we'll put a T47 affidavit. T47 affidavit basically ensures that we have a survey, and when I say we, mean our client, the seller, to the best of their knowledge, that the survey has not changed and is acceptable. Now, we got to put that in X amount of days. They said 3. It's usually 3, but this is also very negotiable. They can put this higher if they want, but this is an out for the seller. Sorry, this is out for the buyer if the sellers don't put it in for X amount of days. Surveys are usually about $400 to $700, really depending. If you work with me at the property shop Broker by Real, we have vendors that gets a good price on surveys. So that's another good thing about working with real estate agents, is that we have resources that the normal consumers may not have. All right. So if we were to put in the T47 affidavit within 3 days with the survey to the title company, then we don't have to do anything. No, the seller doesn't have to buy anything. If we fail to put that within 3 days, then the sellers always have to buy the survey. Now, if later on, put in 3 days, so this bottom line right here means that after 3 days, and the title company and figures out that the survey actually does not work anymore. They've updated the area, updated the property, the line shifted, such as that. Then they need the survey no longer is valid. At that point, these 2 boxes shows who will buy the new survey. So this one, seller will buy the new survey still. Doesn't happen very often, but it's nice to put this in to know. So like I said, if they put sellers buy the property or sellers to buy the survey, that'll be about like $400, $650, $700. Another thing to note, okay? Monetary value is going down with each and every seller's box that are getting checked. If there's no survey, choose 2 or 3. I'll let you know if the buyers will buy it right here, or if the sellers will buy it. If they know there's a survey, a good agent will contact the seller's agent just to see if there's a survey or not. All right, going down, 6D, objections. Usually, objections is if you want to put a pool into the property if they don't already have one. If you want to use it as a lease, leasing house, so you can, as an investment property, you would put this here, because say a pool, you go and get your inspection done, and you figure out that the survey says, oh no, you can't put a pool back here because there's a utility easement back there, so they won't be able to dig a hole to create a pool. And they have X amount of days to cancel the contract, get their earnest money back, and terminate the contract. This is an out for a buyer. However, they didn't put anything here, yet they put amount of days here. So that's kind of weird. I have to ask what the buyer really wants here. Usually, if you leave it blank, then it means that you don't really have objections to put, or you don't know what you need to put in there to actually object. But that's a little odd. Going down, E2 is if this property is in a POA. I think consumers will know that's HOA, Homeowners Association, but it's actually POA. That's the correct terminology for it, Properties Owners Association. So this property is not in a homeowners or properties owners association. If it is, there will be an addendum that will add to the end of the contract to let the buyers know who they need to contact, how the fees, and the pricing for the change of ownership for the POA. This one is not in subject. They always want to ask you, this has to be filled out. That's good that they filled this out. Going down, 7B, seller's disclosure. A good seller's agent will always have the sellers to fill out the disclosure. For me, I did before listing. I fill out the disclosure, sign it to the best of their knowledge, and put it on the transaction desk on the MLS. Now, it's on there, but it does not mean that the buyers acknowledge that it's there. So that's, there's something to think about. They could technically say that, hey, I haven't seen the seller's disclosure, even though I said it's on the MLS. They just haven't received it, acknowledged it. They could be shady like that. In this case, they aren't. They're transparent. We try to work as transparent as we can between agents, because we want the best for both of our clients. And going to a transaction that with ulterior motives never ends well. 1, your reputation will be ruined in the real estate world. 2, it will not last long by doing that. So 7B, they have received the notice, which is great because they can just sign that, put it in with the offer. That's another thing that makes an offer strong. They did put it in with this offer and they signed it to acknowledge that they've read the disclosure and they're okay with it. 2 and 3, if they haven't received disclosure or they haven't received disclosure, sellers have X amount of days to put it in. All right. So you have 7D, 1 and 2. Buyer accepts the property as is. Now, as is does not mean that you cannot do an inspection and ask for repairs. As is just whatever you see right now. They can, they just want to buy as is as they see. You still have your option period, and whenever you have your option period for an inspection to negotiate repairs and concessions. That has nothing to as is. All right. 2, that's whenever they can ask for concessions even before their offer and we go into contract and execute the contract. In this case, they haven't, which if they did, this also brings down the monetary value. So you really want to see 7D2 right here. Like I said, the monetary value will keep going down the more things that they put on here that seller's expense will decrease the net value that you're going to get. Going down, 7H. Now this is home warranty. Sometimes they ask for home warranty, sometimes they don't for buyers. This buyer wants to get a home warranty, and this means that the buyer may purchase a home warranty, and at the home warranty, the seller shall reimburse the buyer at closing for the cost of the warranty, but in amount not exceeding $650. Meaning that if the home warranty cost is $1,000, my seller will only pay $650, the buyer will pay the rest of $350. Now, if the warranty only costs $300, sellers will pay only $300. In this case, this $650 could possibly cut the monetary value of the offer by $650 more. So remember, we had that $650 here. We have the sellers to pay for the title policy, and we had the seller to possibly pay for the survey in case it's wrong. So there's 3 things so far that they're asking the sellers to pay, which will cut into that $665,000 price that they're offering. Now, is this really a good offer now? It seems like it's going down to the listing price anyway, right? 8, disclosures. If this is a house if this is my house, I would say, hey, this is my house, I'm selling it, I'm the listing agent as well. Or if the buyer's agent is trying to buy it from themselves, they would disclose that. No big deal either way. 9A, closing date. So closing date, typically is about 30 days. 30 days would consider to be as pretty quick. Really depends on what the sellers and buyers will need. You obviously want to put it at a reasonable date for the lender to finish getting everything approved for the buyer's financing. 2, give time for the title policy to get the title, usually 20 days. All right, so at least 20 days. For sometimes lenders takes about 21 days. They could be as quick as 12 days, but rushing, it's never good. So 30 days is usually a good time frame. However, they should ask if the seller needs a lease back. Say my clients don't have another place to stay, and they have a lot of furniture, they need to move out, so they would put a lease back. So they could do a lease back, or say, hey, we can't close on this date because we have so much to move. The buyer's agent should always ask the seller's agent before putting this closing date in. In this case, July 10th is already what I told them, and that's good. They filled that out. My clients are okay with July 10th without any lease back. 10A, possession. Possession should be conveyed upon closing and funding, or according to a lease back right here, right? So like I said, we don't need a lease back. So upon closing and funding, that's whenever the keys are handed over to the buyer and their client, all right? And if we need a lease back, then the keys will be handed over at the time of lease back, we'll be told, all right? So this one's upon closing funding, my clients are okay with that. Going down, special provisions, never put any special provisions. Real estate agents are just agents that deal with the property, the transactions, the documents, negotiations here, but not lawyers. If you need to consult a lawyer for any changes to contracts, the wording of the contract, then please consult a lawyer. All right. These contracts are templates that are already made by our committee. Our committee consists of 6 lawyers, six real estate agents, and I want to say one that fluctuates between either a lawyer each year or each X amount of years, or a real estate agent. Regardless, they create this contract together. They have the lawyers write it in a certain way that is compliant with laws and regulations. So we never change anything on the contract. We can never change any lines, cut out lines and say, hey, this actually means this, because it doesn't. These are written in specific ways that's why these contracts are so difficult to read for the normal consumer, because lawyers wrote them. We're not lawyers. Real estate aren't lawyers. You may not be a lawyer, but usually you don't want to put anything in special provisions without consulting a lawyer. All right, 12. Settlement. Expenses paid by the sellers. So if there's any existing liens or anything, penalty recording fees, if this has a mortgage on it still, all those recording fees to transfer those documentations over, we pay for the sellers. That's pretty normal. Sellers shall not pay an amount exceeding to X amount here to be applied in order of the following. So buyer's expense prohibited from paying FHA, VA, other loans here that the seller will have to pay for, and usually not exceed the amounts. That's like the home warranty. Should not exceed the $650 earlier. This one has 0 because they actually have a conventional loan here. So we don't have to worry about this, and they put 0. So we make sure that everything's filled out, even this top line. So here, they didn't fill this out. You want, like I said, a good agent will call ahead, ask what the listing agents, hey, what should I fill out, or how can I fill out? They would ask ahead, put my stuff here. They at least should put my email here, because I should always get a copy, so I would know, right? I can fill out my seller's detail later, or I give them, they can fill it out. But they don't even have the buyer's address on here, phone number, email, or anything like that. But up to them. Should be filled out as the best possibility. So here, 22. They put third-party finance addendum. That's right. We didn't need a seller finance addendum because a seller's not financing. POA, not in POA. No leases. This one though. Right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This one, they put it in without checking this. So we're going to have to go through that, and I'll let you know. If they did send it in, they need to check that. Attorney, if you're a consultant attorney before you read this, none of us consult an attorney. It's just transaction and done between either one. Executed, hasn't executed yet. It only executes when all parties have signed, and the last agent to touch and finish signing on the contract will fill this out. Here we go. So this is the agent's broker information here. They put their information here. License number all filled out. Buyer as buyer's only agent. This is not intermediary. I'm not representing the buyer and the client, or my seller. I'm only representing the seller. He's only representing the buyer. License number, they put this in. Perfect. All right. They fill this out. Perfect. I always miss this. It's such a small spot. I'm getting better at it. All right. So those are the 11 pages. 11 pages of the contract, just the offer itself. Some of the other things on this third-party addendum, what other makes a strong offer is that if they put in their pre-approval letter, which they put it at the very beginning. I didn't go through it, but they are pre-approved for X amount, which is great. You always want to have a pre-approval in your offer, just to know how strong of a client they potentially could buy this house or not. We don't want to waste time on customers that aren't pre-approved, and they're like, oh, I just want to put an offer on this, and then they go try to get financing done, and they realize that they're not approved for that amount or what they thought. So always work with your realtor, get pre-approval first, and then look for houses on the market at your budget, what you can afford. Secondly, even if you get approved for up to like 700K, do not buy a 700K house. You don't want to go to your limit, okay? I'll go through that in another video. Third-party financing to them. This is how we know what kind of loan this is. It's a conventional loan, all right? Conventional loan, they're kind of financed for 289. All these other nitty-gritty details doesn't really mean much in terms of the offer itself for our side. However, one thing about financing loan that I'll go through afterwards that is very helpful later on. It's not any of these other loans. They leave that blank. So this is an out for the buyer. They got pre-approval, but once they do the underwriting, which they'll look at your debt to income ratio, they're going to look at your history, everything, right, to see if you're financed for that amount. If they're not financed for the $289,600 amount, that means that they can terminate the contract, get their earnest money back, not the option fee, get their earnest money back, which is okay. This is pretty normal whenever you are financing. They said that they can get this approved within 18 days, which is that's why I said the 30-day mark. They said they can get this approved in 18 days. And once we get that approval in 18 days, we proceed. All right. Seller disclosure. They signed it here, which is good. That means they acknowledge that they received it. That's what that section 770 was. All right. There's update seller disclosure. Okay. So one big thing that whenever I listed this house was that I listed at a certain price, right? Now, I'm not an appraiser, but we run CMAs. CMA is comparative market analysis, using comps around the area to figure out if this house is cost X amount. So when this was listed, I believe it was listed higher than the comps. It's a weird area, great location. Everyone will want this. They have been putting in higher offers than the actual listing price. So one thing that could potentially happen is that if the appraiser goes out there, appraises a house, and say this house is not worth $364,000, for say, right? And it's only worth $350K. We can only offer you that loan up to $350K, which will bring down their financing amount that they could get. That will cause problems for my seller. So of course I would want to see an appraisal addendum to waive the appraisal or waive the appraisal up to a certain amount. So in this case, you can only do that with conventional loans. You can't do that with VA. You can't do that with FHA. You can do it with the conventional, I believe, USDA too. To ask them to waive that waiver. FHA, you can't do that, first-time home buyers. So this offer overall, it's okay. There's a lot of seller's expenses, which cut down at $365K, and then there's also the waiver that did not waive, and they're offering more. So that's something to think about, because in case if we get that situation, that means we have to terminate the contract and put it back on listing or active listing on MLS, and that is something to think about. All right. But overall, if you find this content helpful and useful and you would like to know more, please like and subscribe. That would honestly help me out. And I'll go through everything real estate related, and we'll go through some more things on this channel. All right. Thank you.